Alrighty, yo, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. DDG94 here, back with another reaction video. Today, we finna react to the entire history of SmackDown. I don't know what this is, but this should be interesting. Shout out to Wrestling with Andy. This dude be putting out pure heat when it comes to the wrestling content, bro. I'm really rocking with his channel. This should be an interesting one. We did the last time we reacted to a video was the best heel each year. So this should be a very interesting video, bro. Most definitely. Without further ado, man, let's get right into it.
Back at the turn of the millennium, wrestling was on fire to such a level that the top two promotions couldn't just have one weekly TV show each. No, they had to have two. And for the WWE side of the equation, this second show would end up being one which was called SmackDown. How would SmackDown fare initially, and where has it gone since those early days? Well, that's exactly what we're going to be looking at right now in the entire history of SmackDown. Back in the late 90s,
You know what? This might be a controversial take. This might be a controversial take. But I think SmackDown has been better than Raw for a good chunk of years. Now, hear me out. I understand. Raw has been around longer. It's had way more better moments. But, nigga, when we talking about SmackDown, SmackDown has always had heat. I know it's a controversial take, but I feel like SmackDown just had better content than Raw. Raw had great content. The Attitude Era, undisputedly, that goes to Raw. But like the Ruthless Aggression Era, the PG era, SmackDown SmackDown low key had it, bro. I like, bro. People sleep on SmackDown, bro. Exactly. When Paul Heyman was on the writing team back in the early 2000s, bro, and then around the time when Eddie Guerrero, John Cena, all them came up, bro, and then the Batista years. Oh my God, this shit was goated, bro. The Batista years was them Batista years. That shit was fire. The Batista, Rey Mysterio, Undertaker years with Edge in the mix as well. Yo, those were some of the most fire years of SmackDown, bro. Telling y'all, bro, SmackDown do not get the love and appreciation that it truly deserves, bro. I'm telling y'all, dog, SmackDown has low-key always been, low-key in my personal opinion, has been the better show. Starting from the Ruthless Aggression era to the PG era to the Roman Reigns era. Like right now, SmackDown ass. Like let's be real. Well, wrestling across the board is ass right now. But SmackDown though, SmackDown just always came with the heat, bro. It's always been the most underrated show, bro, in my personal opinion. But anyway, so back to the video.
wrestling reached mainstream levels of success it had never achieved before, not even during the 80s when Hulk Hogan was at his peak. And with there being two powerhouses during this period in WWF and WCW, it was inevitable that both were going to start expanding to even greater degrees before long. Who would do this first? Well, it would be World Championship Wrestling, who first introduced their secondary show, Thunder, in January of 1998, a show which met with much success for the company during those early days at least. So, not wanting to waste any more time encountering, Vince McMahon would work with the UPN network to bring his own B show to life in April of 1999, when they introduced the world to their newest creation, SmackDown. Of course, during that initial episode, it wasn't a guarantee that SmackDown was going to become a weekly show. No, this was very much considered a pilot, with there being a possibility of more if it happened to be a success. Luckily then, the show was a success, with the big takeaway storyline-wise from that debut being the formation of the corporate ministry, the most unholy corporate merger of all time. That said, it wasn't just the antics of The Undertaker, Shane McMahon, and other heels which made this one worth watching. No, the real star of the show on that night was the man SmackDown had been named after. That's right, so white hot was The Rock come the spring of 1999, one of his catchphrases would be used as the name for this event. It would be like if WWE introduced a new show today and called it Ula Fala. And when SmackDown was commissioned as a full-time
Or
weekly series soon
Head of
thereafter
the Table.
and began airing
Or
as such a
Smash.
few months later in August,
SmackDown.
this would be the name which would remain associated with it. Obviously then, Dwayne Johnson would be all over those early shows, but he wasn't all there was, as looking to establish this as more than just a B show, WWF would throw all their stars on those initial episodes of the Blue brand. We're talking about people like Mick Foley, Triple H, Chris Jericho, and of course Stone Cold Steve Austin here. And that was a smart move as it happened because during those initial years, SmackDown had a big advantage over Raw in the fact that it was on network TV, meaning it was available to watch to a much wider audience than Raw was on cable.
That's really another big thing too. With it being on local television, bro. Like, if you miss Raw, you would get to see what happened on Raw through SmackDown. Nah, I'll take that back. Telemundo. I keep forgetting about Telemundo. Hey, Telemundo was goated. Shout out to Telemundo, man. What's up for Telemundo, man? Shout out to Telemundo, man, for giving us Monday Night Raw. Even though it was in Spanish and we couldn't really like hear what we couldn't hear what everybody was saying because the dude was talking over him in Spanish, but still, shout out to Telemundo though. Shout out to Telemundo. They came through the clutch when you miss Raw. Hell yeah.
Yes, UPN and USA had a big difference in reach. So this meant, in theory, more people would be watching the Blue brand every week than they would the Red one. As you would imagine then, there were a lot of things which happened on Thursday nights at this point, things such as Vince McMahon infamously winning the WWF title from Triple H that September, or perhaps the only buried alive match ever given away on weekly TV. Really, it was more of an extension of what was happening on Monday nights rather than a separate show, and that helped to make it just as much see as Raw. That said, it wasn't like SmackDown didn't have some struggles during those early days. After all, mere months after it debuted and was still trying to establish itself, the top star in the company, Steve Austin, would have to take a year out of the ring to go get neck surgery. Thankfully though, while this could have been a complete disaster, the roster was so strong back then that his absence was barely felt. And that was still true as 2000 rolled around and the work rate half of the Attitude Era began, with the introduction of people like Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, and more. Hell, when
the true MVPs of the first era of SmackDown was The Rock, Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit. Then was like the four main like MVPs. You could throw Undertaker and Kane in there if you want to, but I personally feel like it was those four for the first like iteration of SmackDown. Like for its first like couple of years, then was like the four MVPs of SmackDown.
Radicals made their shocking jump from WCW in January of 2000, it would be on SmackDown, not Raw, in which they had their debut matches with WWF, a sign of just how much weight Vince McMahon was putting behind this secondary show. And it would also be on SmackDown that plenty of other iconic moments occurred throughout that year, moments like Mick Foley's transformation into Cactus Jack, Steve Austin briefly returning to blow up the DX Express, and The Rock doing his famous sliding people's elbow. Then there's the fact that so much of the McMahon-Helmsley era, which dominated a lot of WWF TV at the start of the millennium, would take place on the Blue brand, with it being there that both Triple H beat the Big Show for the WWF title, and Stephanie McMahon beat Jacqueline for the WWF Women's title. Needless to say then, as a counter to Thunder, this was a very successful experiment for WWF. And as a show which could stand right out there alongside Raw in terms of importance, it was even more successful. And that was all evidenced when, once WCW went under in 2001 and was bought out by Vince McMahon for pennies on the dollar, the Blue brand remained a key part of storyline advancement in WWF all throughout the Invasion angle. Hell, sometimes it would get bigger moments than the Red brand did. After all, how can we forget about the segment prior to Invasion in which the old Stone Cold returned? That all happened on SmackDown, as did the famous supermarket brawl between Steve Austin and Booker T. And as if that wasn't enough, it would be SmackDown which hosted the first live sports broadcast held in America after the events of 9/11, with this episode seeing the entire roster come out and stand together, heel and babyface alike, as they helped the nation to heal with 2 hours of entertainment. Sure, the fact this happened on the Blue brand rather than the Red one was more circumstantial than anything, but it certainly helped to add to the idea that what was taking place on Thursday nights was far more than just shoulder programming like Sunday Night Heat or Shotgun Saturday Night had been before it. But for all the early success SmackDown was having, it wasn't immune to having the format thrown out and things reworked in an all-new way, as come early 2002, there would be a big change in the air.
The brand split.
Well, this was the point where, realizing that them no longer having any competition was having a negative effect on their business, WWE decided to try and manufacture their own internal competitor. Yes, this was the point where Raw...
The first iteration of the brand split was great. The first iteration. But somewhere around like what, 2010, I want to say 2010, 2011, when they pretty much did away with the brand split. Oh yeah, RP test. The first the first brand split, they did it so fucking perfectly. Like when they brought it back in like 2015, 2016, ass. It's been ass ever since. And nowadays the brand split don't even fucking matter. Like, bro, when's the last time they did a draft? Exactly. They ain't did a draft in like 2 or 3 years now, bro. They did a draft in 2 or 3 years. Motherfuckers just be jumping on either show, bro. Why is LA Knight on Raw now all of a sudden? LA Knight just jumped ship to Raw and they ain't tell nobody. So he's just a Raw guy now. Fuck out of here. The brand split don't matter, but they need to just get rid of it, bro. Go back to what they was doing in like 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, bro. When it was just Super Show, Raw Super Show, SmackDown Super Show. Just turn them back into the Super Shows, man.
And SmackDown were split up and were given 2 separate rosters, with the idea here being that going forward, each show would have a unique writing team and would be fighting for supremacy over the other in the weekly ratings, just as Raw and Nitro had once been doing the same. Obviously then, this lit a fire under those who were in charge of the blue brand, namely Paul Heyman and Stephanie McMahon, to succeed at a higher level than the red brand. And it led to what many people consider to this day to be the golden era of SmackDown. What made this era so special? Well, while Raw was being crushed under the boot of Triple H's reign of terror, all while it was simultaneously trying to live off of the fumes of the Attitude Era with infamous moments like the HLA segment or the Katie Vick angle, the blue brand was going in a different direction altogether. Sure, it wasn't like there were none of the goofier moments to be found on SmackDown at all. No, segments like Billy and Chuck's wedding or the Tori Wilson, Dawn Marie, Al Wilson love triangle certainly had plenty of that. But back then, the show was a lot more focused on great in-ring wrestling above all else. Basically, this is what ECW would have looked like if it had lived on into the mid-2000s, something Paul Heyman has alluded to in the past when he said he imagined the Philly promotion morphing into something more akin to early Ring of Honor, where it would have been all about work rate rather than the same shock tactics which got over during the late 90s. And this was certainly a move which was well received by fans, as with the SmackDown 6 at the helm, Thursday nights largely became seen as the must-see night to tune into WWE, far more so than the flagship for a while. Who were the SmackDown 6? Well, they'd be made up of Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, Edge, Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, and Chavo Guerrero, a sextet of the best workers in the world back at that point in time. So as you would expect then, no matter which combination any of these 6 were put in over the next couple of years, whether it be trios, tag, triple threat, or singles action, I
don't know too much about Chavo, bro. Los Guerreros were a great tag team, but I don't know too much about Chavo being like one of the best of the best on the roster. Come on now. Come on, man. Come on, man. I'm just saying, bro. Chavo in top 6. Come on, bro. I would make a slight hint. I would make a slight hint at I make a slight hint at I'm trying to think who else was on that roster around that time. Yeah, Eddie really did carry, but I mean Chavo had his moments here and there, but like the top 6 though of the I don't think so, bro. I think we can give a slight nod. I think we can give a slight nod to I don't know, was this 2002? Yeah, this was 2002. So shit, I'm trying to think who else was on the roster in 2002. SmackDown 2002. I don't know about Chavo Guerrero though. I'm just saying, bro.
They always delivered, to the point that they soon became synonymous with the quality of the brand overall. But they weren't the only big names SmackDown had during the early days of the brand extension.
I mean, you would say Brock Lesnar, but he was like jumping ship from like Raw to SmackDown.
No, there was also another major player to be found in none other than Brock Lesnar. Hell, it was Brock who ended up becoming the first Blue Brand exclusive world champion when he brought the undisputed title to SmackDown full-time in the autumn of 2002 after winning it from The Rock. And it was him who would go on to have a series of classic matches over that belt with Kurt Angle, with one of these matches, their 1-hour Iron Man bout on the September 18th episode of the Blue Brand, still being amongst the best WWE has ever given away on
these two right here, Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar. These two right here were putting on nothing but 5-star classics every fucking time, bro. Every fucking time, bro. These two would just put on 5-star classics, bro. Just go in there and just put on bangers, bro. Every fucking time, bro. On a random Thursday, a random Thursday in February, bro. A random Thursday in February, you would get some heat from these two, bro. Just, bro, absolutely, bro. Bro, I'm telling y'all, bro. SmackDown had that heat, bro. I'm telling y'all, bro. If you just had to be there to understand, SmackDown had that heat. If y'all wasn't there, you missed out, bro. These two would put on 5-star classics in the middle of fucking March on a random Thursday on March, bro. Network television, March. Nothing's going on. No storylines, no amazing storylines, no nothing. Just put them two in the ring. They're gonna give you a classic, bro, for no reason.
Free TV, even to this day. But that wasn't the only great SmackDown moment Lesnar was involved in during those early days. No, there was also the time he and the Big Show quite literally destroyed the ring during a famous segment, which caused...
Okay, this was a fire-ass moment. I can't even deny that. My hatred for the Big Show, even though I have a lot of hatred in my heart for the Big Show, even though I had a lot of hate for Big Show around this time, I ain't gonna lie, this was a fire-ass moment. That's all you get. That's all you get. You don't get the full experience. Nah, no Big Show. You don't get the full experience. But yeah, man, it was alright though. It was alright. This was probably Big Show's best moments, I say. But anything else after this, bruh, fuck Big Show.
Their match to end early, a segment which still gets regularly replayed in retrospectives to this day. And then there was the feud he had with the other great mainstay of the Blue Brand during this era, the dead man himself, The Undertaker. That's right, so synonymous with SmackDown would Mark Calloway become here, so much a part of its DNA would he transform into, it became a full-blown meme after a while that whenever general manager Teddy Long wasn't putting people in tag team matches, playa, he was having them go one-on-one with The Undertaker. For as big as the Phenom was during the early to mid-2000s, he wasn't quite as beloved as Eddie Guerrero was. No, after coming back from the absolute brink of addiction, then beating the Beast for the WWE title at No Way Out in February of 2004, Eddie would return to his home of the Blue Brand as a conquering hero and a true bastion of everything which was making that brand so special. Not just the level of in-ring skill its performers had, but also the personality they exuded. Basically, what we're saying here is that it was almost universally agreed during this early to mid-2000s run that SmackDown was the best thing WWE had to offer. But for as great as it was, more changes were coming soon anyway. And the reason for that was because a whole new generation was about to rise to the top, something which would become evident on the night where a young performer named John Cena made his debut on the Blue Brand to challenge Kurt Angle. Fast forward to a couple of years after that, and Cena would be en route to becoming the biggest star in the entire industry, something he was doing by rising up the ranks of SmackDown as United States Champion and fending off the challenges of people like Carlito. Sure, once he actually won the WWE title from JBL at WrestleMania 21, he'd be moved over to Raw not long thereafter. But
it it kind of hurt to see John Cena have to jump ship, bro. It kind of hurt because you kind of like, it was kind of like we saw the growth and evolution of John Cena, but when he went over to Raw, it kind of hurt a little bit because it's like, I don't really want to watch Raw. Like, nigga, I'm gonna be real with you. I wasn't really watching Raw like that. Raw didn't really have that much going on for it, except for the Edge and Matt Hardy situation. That was a good thing. The Batista turning on Triple H thing, that was very interesting. But like when they moved him over to Raw, it was like you moving him over somewhere that's kind of like a dead island right now. That's how I felt at the time. I was like, you moving the top guy over to a dead island right now. Like John Cena is hot right now. You really want to move him over to a dead island when he still got so much, like he has so much potential over on SmackDown alone. You got Undertaker, you got Booker T, you got Rey Mysterio, you got goddamn Kurt Angle in the process, but then they moved Kurt Angle to Raw with him, so we got that. So, but still though, it was a lot of potential on Raw for Cena after JBL, but the fact that they moved him, it kind of hurt a little bit, and I think that's what kind of like hurt his rise a little bit because he had to go over there with the more technically sound wrestlers versus the more entertaining wrestlers. Because I think on Raw you had to put on technical bangers on Raw, and then on SmackDown you'd had all the entertainers. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it kind of hurt, but like I said, that Batista era was fire though.
It wasn't like the Blue Brand didn't get a pretty decent make good here, as in exchange they got the World Heavyweight Champion Batista. And this then would formally start the whole new era of SmackDown, one in which both Batista and Edge would serve as its top acts, as by that point, the rated R superstar had also struck gold with his new cocky heel gimmick. Hell, each of these men would largely remain a part of Thursday nights all the way up until their respective exits in 2010 and 2011. That said, even with their star power leading the charge, it didn't take long for it to become apparent that this was the point the Blue Brand was truly slipping into Beast Show territory for the first time. Something which should have been evident as soon as the new franchise player was moved off of that show and over to the flagship almost as soon as he won the Big Boy belt. Come on now, the fact that SmackDown got the World Heavyweight title instead of the WWE title was, in hindsight, a sign of how it was slipping in importance as a brand here because, while both belts were, in theory, on the same level, everyone knew that the real world champion was the one over on Raw, as that was the one with the lineage going all the way back to George Hackenschmidt. It didn't matter if Booker T managed to have a great run with it as King Booker. It didn't matter if The Undertaker made it his own for a while. The World Heavyweight title was by then less a true top prize and more what the Intercontinental title had been back in the 80s, a high-level secondary piece of hardware. How would SmackDown try to get some of its momentum back now that this had firmly established them as the B brand? Well, the addition of up-and-coming names like CM Punk were one way, as during his Blue Brand feud with Jeff Hardy in the late 2000s, he really showed he could rise to the occasion. But as was becoming the case so often by then, this success only saw him eventually be moved over to the real A show, Raw. Honestly, there was a point here where as the 2010s arrived, it had never felt less important to tune in to what was happening on the secondary show.
Y'all was sleeping on this, man. Y'all was sleeping on SmackDown, bro. I'm telling y'all, the 2010s SmackDown was still dropping heat. 10 times better than what was going on Raw. What was going on Raw in 2010? The goddamn celebrity guest hosts. That shit was terrible. The celebrity guest host shit was terrible, bro. It was terrible. It was garbage. The only good thing Raw had going for it was the Nexus. That was it. It was just the Nexus, John Cena, and Randy Orton. That was it. SmackDown had characters, had heat, bro. Y'all was sleeping on SmackDown, bro. SmackDown had some great work going on over on their side, bro. People just sleeping on it. I'm telling you.
And that wasn't helped by the fact that network changes and, as a result, changes in the night in which the show aired frequently threw schedules into upheaval. Then, as if that weren't bad enough, SmackDown wrestlers starting to appear on Raw full-time basically turned the Blue Brand into little more than a recap show for what had been happening the prior Monday. Honestly, if the SmackDown 6 era had been the high point of the brand, then this was undoubtedly the low point, and the point where the show could have been canceled altogether, and no one would have really batted an eye, as
the
so
anonymous
few were bothering to even
GM.
watch it on a regular basis anymore.
Bro, Cody Rhodes. Hold on, go back for me real quick.
Batted an eye, as so few were bothering to.
Bro, Cody Rhodes, dashing character, the undashing character, whichever version you prefer. The one when he had the mask, the one when he didn't have the mask, bro. Cody Rhodes was him on SmackDown over here, bro. Y'all don't understand. Cody Rhodes was putting on bangers out here. I was so disappointed that they didn't pull the trigger on him immediately, because he was showing signs of superstar potential back then. That's how you know people was sleeping, bro. I knew about Cody Rhodes' potential because of SmackDown. People didn't understand about that. Now everybody a Cody Rhodes fan. Now everybody going, whoa, okay, cool. I was supporting Cody Rhodes back then. Y'all wasn't watching, bro. I'm telling y'all, Cody Rhodes was putting on 5-star matches on a nightly basis, bro. Off over there, bro. His dashing character, undashing character, he was putting in work, bro. Great character work, great ring work. Y'all was not watching, man.
Even watch it on a regular basis anymore. Again, though, this is not to say there was no reason to watch SmackDown at all during those dark days. No, whenever it was on the air, there were still glimmers of the old greatness it had, something which was evidenced in the run people like Jeff Hardy, Rey Mysterio, and Chris Jericho had as World Heavyweight Champion, or the latter days of The Undertaker's full-time schedule.
I probably said the only mishap SmackDown had was when they made Jack Swagger World Heavyweight Champion. Okay, the Jack Swagger little era that they had over there, that shit was ass. I ain't gonna lie. That was a bad moment for SmackDown, bro. That's when both shows was bad. When they made Jack Swagger, throw that shit in the trash, bro.
Hear me good, nigga. I'm here to double down. That shit is a 2-pack of ass. The fuck are you talking about?
That shit stinks. The shit stinks. Trash. The Jack Swagger, the mini Jack Swagger era was garbage, bro. That shit was ass. That's when SmackDown was kind of ass for a while, but then they picked it back up. Absolutely, Jack Swagger ruined the fuck out of that, and then he had the audacity to complain and talk about John Cena didn't want to choose me. It's a reason why, bro. It's a reason why. Bro. I'm so sick and tired of people doing that to John Cena. John Cena didn't give me a chance. Looking at your career, it's a reason why, bro. Come on, dog. It's a reason why, bro. John Cena done put some people over that you wouldn't think he put over. He put over Sheamus in a table match. I really want y'all to think about that. He put Sheamus over in a table match. He let CM Punk run off with the WWE World Heavyweight Championship during Money in the Bank. Don't tell me that Cena not letting people go over, bro. Jack Swagger being the last Lucha Underground champion was disrespectful. Oh my god. That shit was that shit was that ass. Every promotion this man has been a part of, he is the worst part about it, bruh. Jack Swagger has been ass everywhere he has went, bruh. Throw Jack Swagger in the trash where he belongs. Try it. Nobody cares that John Cena didn't want to put you over the night after WrestleMania, bro. You did not deserve that, bro. You didn't deserve it. We still needed more Batista and John Cena. We didn't need a Jack Swagger feud. Fuck out of here.
Then, of course, there was the initial rise of Daniel Bryan with the big gold belt in 2011, or the Christian and Randy Orton feud that same year. Basically, what we're saying here is there were still a few embers burning in that fire, even if the fire was almost burnt out completely. It's not like it ever dropped to the level of a Sunday Night Heat or anything. And that would be enough to see the show limp on to 2016, at which point it would get a second lease on life. What happened here? Well, with WWE deciding to reinstitute the brand extension, SmackDown suddenly had a purpose once more. That's right, going forward, it would once again have its own roster and its own titles, with the initial roster here managing to outshine the Raw one, just as it had done in the early 2000s. But then how could it not when it included people like Dean Ambrose, AJ Styles, John Cena, and Becky Lynch, just to name a few. Yes, it certainly helped the blue brand here that upon being moved over to Friday...
Don't forget. Don't forget the most important MVP of this era, James Ellsworth. Don't forget James Ellsworth. He was the MVP of this era. The 2016 year, James Ellsworth was that guy. Said nobody ever. He said Vince beef with Christian needs to be studied. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, people were sleeping on that Christian shit too, bro. Christian being the world heavyweight champion over there on SmackDown was kind of goated, bro. That was a goated moment, even though he never got the title back from Randy, but still, like, bro, that was a goated moment, bro. Goated moments.
Nights, it would be aired live again, but
Mark
that
Henry
wasn't
Hall
the
of
key
Fame
factor in its fortunes turning around. No, the key factor was that it felt like it featured the best the main roster had to offer. After all, with Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan, the two men running the show in kayfabe, being more motivated than ever to prove they could outdo what Stephanie McMahon and her rotating cast of general managers were doing over on Raw, they certainly weren't going to accept any less than the best, and that meant good times for fans watching. What were some of the highlights of this era of SmackDown? Well, the run of Dean Ambrose as WWE champion might have had its low points, but at the very least, it established him as a guy who could be on that level, right there alongside his former Shield brothers Roman Reigns and...
I ain't gonna lie. It started off good with Dean Ambrose, but it kind of went sour real quick. I guess you could put that on the writing and the booking, I guess, but low-key, his character was low-key starting to become a little stale, in my personal opinion. Low-key, Dean Ambrose's character was starting to become a little stale, in my personal opinion. When they put the title on AJ Styles, off to the moon.
Seth Rollins. And when it came time for AJ Styles' subsequent time on top, he was able to prove any doubters he ever had that he could carry a WWE brand on his shoulders. Sure, things like the Jinder Mahal reign were mistakes in hindsight, but they were balanced out.
And this is when I left. This is when I left. This is when we lost the plot here. This is where we lost the plot here. This is where we lost the plot, and I gave up on WWE.
What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this?
This is where I lost the fucking plot. Ain't no fucking way, bro.
That's that shit I don't like.
I was done with WWE after this. I was like, nope. Once they put the title on Jinder Mahal, and he was beating Randy Orton of all people. Randy Orton of all people. They say he was pitching ideas, but the writing team was blowing him off. Well, that kind of makes sense. But when they put it on Jinder fucking Mahal and made it seem like Randy Orton couldn't beat this guy, the modern day Maharaja, whatever the fuck he called himself, bruh, this was it for me. I was like, nope, I'm done with WWE. I'm done.
Out by the initial rises of both Becky Lynch and Alexa Bliss in 2016, the Styles-Cena feud, the return of Daniel Bryan to the ring somewhat miraculously, and the work of others like Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and Bray Wyatt, all while they were arguably at their creative peaks. Even The Miz got something of a late career revival while part of the blue brand here when, after going off on the American Dragon on an episode of Talking Smack, SmackDown's post-show hosted by Bryan and Renee Young, he suddenly found himself getting critical acclaim by many for the first time. Critical acclaim which would continue all the way into both his WrestleMania feud with John Cena and his partnership with Shane McMahon not long after this. Really, there was a sense here that the Friday show was truly the land of opportunity as it was being advertised, a more focused and character-driven piece of television where people could catch a break in opposition to the often illogical antics found over on Raw on Monday nights come the mid to late 2000s. And all this would lead to another peak for the blue brand when, in 2018 and heading into 2019, it suddenly found itself home to the two top programs in the company. The birth of Becky Lynch's The Man character, and the surprise arrival of Kofi Mania heading into WrestleMania 35. How would they manage with this task? very well as it happened, because once more, it felt like Friday nights was the place to watch your weekly fix of main roster WWE TV. Sure, it helped them to gain a bigger audience once they were moved over to Fox, with this being the biggest platform the company had been on in years at that point.
I low-key was like in and out during the Kofi Mania era, but once we got to Mr. PP Man,
Bruh.
once again I checked out.
A true major network which
Cool
all but
B was good
guaranteed a
with you.
massive increase in viewership on a weekly basis. But even if that hadn't been the case, SmackDown still felt like the better show when compared to Raw here, something which was evident in the fact that so many of the big stars like Roman Reigns, found a permanent home there come the end of the decade. Really, you could argue that while there were plenty of times in the past where the blue brand was outshining the red one, this was the first time that WWE had truly treated it like the A show, something they clearly wanted to do on account of it now being on a better network than Raw was. And that would continue to be the case for the next few years. Unfortunately, though, there would be some rough years during this time period too, as we were about to enter into the dreaded era of the lockdown. Yes, it was in early 2020 that the world shut down.
This is when I came back to wrestling. I still can't watch that WrestleMania. What was it? WrestleMania 36? The pandemic WrestleMania. I still can't watch that one. Nope. I can't watch it. It's too weird, bro, to hear. It's really the women matches, bro. When all you hear is women just grunting and moaning and stuff like that, and it's like, bro, it's like y'all can't add in some sound effects. It sounds like it sounds like I'm on the hub right now. I couldn't watch the pandemic WrestleMania, bro. I couldn't watch the pandemic WrestleMania. I couldn't do it. It felt like I was more on the hub than I was watching a wrestling event, but still.
Down for about a year and a half, and because of this, suddenly no fans were allowed in attendance at any sporting events. So this was when WWE introduced the Thunderdome, a giant video screen wall in which fans could tune in from home. Now, it wasn't ideal, but it was the best that the company felt they could do given the circumstances. And it would be something we'd all get used to very quickly, as on both Raw and SmackDown, it soon became the norm. But while Raw was understandably struggling in the Thunderdome era, SmackDown did have an ace they were about to play in order to get fans interested again, in spite of.
I don't even think we gotta say it. We ain't even gotta say it, bruh. Just play the music. When they turned Roman Reigns heel, SmackDown was out of here. 4-year reign. We're not even like taking in the fact that they went on a 4 or 5 year reign with just this man alone, bruh. Give this man his flowers, bruh. Roman Reigns turning heel, the best fucking decision WWE could have ever fucking made, bruh. This right here changed everything, bro. This is why wrestling got hot again. And it was only because they took their top face, turned them heel, gave us pure fucking fire every goddamn week, bro. It was just pure fire. Even if the matches did start to become a little bit too predictable, but the fact that this man was dominating and the fact that this man was beating everybody that they put in front of him, best fucking era ever, bro.
The lack of atmosphere, and that Ace would make its presence felt at SummerSlam of that year when Roman Reigns returned to the ring. Yes, after taking time away to look after his health during the beginnings of the lockdown, Roman returned at SummerSlam, now with an all-new heel demeanor and a new manager at his side in the form of Paul Heyman. This then was the birth of both the Tribal Chief and the Bloodline, the storyline which would dominate WWE TV for the next several years. And because Roman was a SmackDown exclusive, it meant the majority of this angle would play out on the Blue brand, with this only further solidifying the idea that it was the A show. That's right, the antics of Roman, Heyman, the Usos, Solo Sikoa, and for a very notable period, Sami Zayn would all be something you could really only see on Friday nights. And that makes it ground zero when discussing the hot streak the company was about to undergo. Hell, so much was SmackDown the #1 focus for WWE here. Once Roman Reigns beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 38 to unify both world titles and become undisputed WWE Universal Champion, he'd continue to mostly appear on SmackDown, meaning that if you wanted to see a world champion in WWE, you had to tune in on a Friday rather than a Monday. Obviously then, once crowds returned to arenas in mid-2021, this made the Blue brand the hottest ticket in comparison to Raw, and that would continue to be the case for the next couple of years as the Bloodline remained the nexus point which all WWE programming circled around. Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Daniel Bryan, Edge, and of course Cody Rhodes. They all had some involvement with the Anoa'i family during this period, and that inevitably led them to SmackDown at points, even if this wasn't the show they'd been drafted to. But it wasn't just the Bloodline which was making SmackDown WWE's A show at the start of the 2020s. No, there was also the women's division, with this seeing previously featured players like Bianca Belair and
Thank you for showing love to the women's division, because definitely the women's division was on fire around this time too. The women's division was definitely on fire around this time too. Definitely got to show some. Definitely got to show some love to the women out there. Nah, Julio, for this one, we gonna let everybody ride out. Everybody was doing their thing around this time.
Charlotte Flair getting to shine, all while newcomers to the main roster like Tiffany Stratton and Julia were also making a mark. Really then, it felt like it was the brand that had everything a WWE fan could want heading into the new decade. Of course, eventually the Roman Reigns world title run was going to have to end though, and when this happened, there were questions about how SmackDown would fare without such an all-encompassing angle driving it anymore, especially as by that time, the Tribal Chief was already a part-timer. But luckily, once the Bloodline fell at WrestleMania 40, an all-new champion would be crowned in Cody Rhodes. And with Cody Rhodes now being a SmackDown exclusive act as a result of this, it kept the Blue brand on top in the internal brand war, as he was by that point very clearly the biggest star the company had. Hell, by the time
So far, Cody Rhodes' title reign has been a letdown. So far. I mean, we have so many great stories we could tell, but I don't know what's going on with the booking, bro. The booking has just been terrible for the past couple of months. Now, I don't get the direction that WWE is going in, especially when it pertains to Cody Rhodes. I understand giving Cena the title. I don't have a problem with them giving Cena the title. To tell you the truth, Cena title reign was booked better than Cody Rhodes title reign so far. Like Cody Rhodes, he's had some good matches. The Kevin Owens feud was good. Until Kevin Owens got injured, of course. Other than that, having him face Solo Sikoa, having him face the Bloodline 2.0, that shit was kind of like redundant at that point. It was time to have him move on to other things. We're still... The fact that we're still waiting on the Randy Orton feud, like Randy Orton got enough, like Randy Orton back in his 20s or something like that. Like this is 2004. Randy Orton is in his early 20s again. Like, no, Randy Orton is he on his way out the door, bro. Can we please get that Randy Orton match sometime soon, please? I just feel like they're not doing the justice. Giving them Drew McIntyre was good, but the fact that they didn't put over Drew pisses me off. Does he need a title reign? I give him one more. Give him one more. But he got to be a heel though. He got to be a full blown heel though. That's the only thing with Orton though. Orton got to be a full blown heel to have another title reign. He don't got to be 2009 Randy Orton. But he gotta have. But he has to be a heel. He has to have that edge to him again. There has to be because there has to be a reason why he's even dominating the way he's dominating. If he goes back into that heel place where he starts hearing voices in his head and he start kicking people's head off their fucking shoulders, yes, absolutely, give him a title shot. Randy putting Go, yeah, we can't have the sisters out here getting hurt, Julio. We can't have the black sisters out here getting hurt now. You know what I'm saying? We can't have my black queens out here getting hurt like that now. But yeah, I would say give him one more run. Most definitely give Randy one more run. But we still waiting on a Randy Orton feud. Obviously, they're gonna set up a goddamn a Roman Reigns Cody Rhodes feud in the future. They're setting it up. It's coming. We gotta accept the inevitable at this point. I mean, they had so much potential. You could have gave us LA Knight, AJ. What I think they did give us AJ Styles. They did give us AJ Styles. I take that back. But you could have gave us LA Knight. You could have gave us who else? You could have gave us. I mean, Jacob Fatu is still out there for right now, but you know, still in development right now. Jacob Fatu is still in development right now. But he's on his way there. Gunther versus Cody, most definitely. Wherever Gunther is at right now, hopefully he comes back better, man, from whatever injury he's suffering from. I think he got a hip injury. I think that's what it is. Gunther got a hip injury. That's why he out right now. So hopefully when Gunther come back, we can get a Cody versus Gunther. Like, they got so much potential. I don't know why we just holding back on this. Like, the brands are still split. Fuck the brand split and just just give us good matches. We had to, bro. The fact that we had to beg for AJ Styles, versus Cena tells you that they are not that Triple H's mindset is somewhere else. The fact that we had to beg for that, that's crazy. We had to beg for that, and Cena had to go on Twitter and tell them that. Like, they've been saying AJ Styles versus Cena for a while now. When we gonna do that? I was like, oh, they want that? Okay, we give them that. It's like, fuck. Come on, man. I don't know what's going on with WWE in the booking right now. That's crazy, bro. The fact that we had to beg for fucking Cena AJ when that should have been the first thing on the marquee with this retirement tour. But I digress. I don't know where WWE is with the booking right now, but I hate to say it, but it kind of need a little Vince McMahon in its writing right now. I hate to say it, but it kind of needs a little bit of Vince McMahon in there right now.
Time 2024 came around, Cody was the biggest babyface WWE had seen since the peak days of John Cena. That said, today he's not being asked to carry the show by himself. No, folks like Roman Reigns still make semi-regular appearances, and with John Cena largely finding a home on the Blue brand during his retirement year, it's only continued to solidify the importance of SmackDown in a post-Bloodline world. Sure, it might not be on Fox anymore, and with Raw now being on Netflix worldwide and SmackDown still being on cable TV in America, it means that the tides have shifted again in terms of what's considered the A show. But that doesn't make what takes place on Friday nights a B show. Rather, it's more of a 1A, the Dwayne Johnson to the Red brand Steve Austin, if you will. But then how could it be considered anything less? Really, CM Punk and Rhea Ripley aside, most of the big stars remain on SmackDown, even post-Netflix debut. And that's what's going to keep it a powerful brand within WWE for some time to come. Hell, we could even see a situation in the not-too-distant future where it becomes the full A show again, and once more proves that despite its humble beginnings as a mere extra 2 hours of programming every week, it's turned into so much more. Yes, the legacy of SmackDown today is something which could have gone no further than the pilot stage, but which turned into one of the biggest shows in wrestling history. It was a roll of the dice, but a roll of the dice which paid off big time for WWE. Sure, it's had its ups and downs like with any show, but even at its lowest point during the early 2010s when it was basically the Raw recap show, it was still valuable enough for Vince McMahon to keep it on the air. And when it's been at its strongest, like it was during the SmackDown 6 era or the Fox era, it's been the jewel in the company's crown, something which, even during dark times for WWE, has proven to be a shining light. It's a show which has had to adapt to much change, with it bouncing around various time slots, nights of the week, networks, and lockdowns over the course of this run, but that's just made it stronger as the brand has been forced to learn how to adapt and reinvent itself on a regular basis. So while Raw will always be considered the flagship of WWE, and while NXT had the cool factor from the black and gold days which made it the alternative brand of the promotion in many ways, SmackDown might quietly be the best of them all. If nothing else, it's shown itself multiple times over to be the fans' show, one which acts as the land of opportunity for stars who might not be able to get the same chances on a Raw, all while often serving as the more wrestling-centric brand, as it did particularly well during the early 2000s. All of this is to say, don't expect SmackDown to be going anywhere in the future. No, expect it to continue going from strength to strength, getting further rooted in the pop culture landscape each and every week as this new TKO era of WWE uses all its power to make the house that The Rock built something truly worthy of bearing his name.
Alrighty, man. That's just going about do it for this one. Absolutely. I think that SmackDown low-key, I keep saying that SmackDown was low-key the better show. I'm telling y'all, bro. People were sleeping on SmackDown, bro. Y'all was watching the anonymous GM, the celebrity guest host GM, the fucking what was his name? The one dude that the fucking Johnny Laurinaitis, the Big Johnny era. Fuck out of here. The one dude that was in that one video with Xavier Woods page, that one, I forgot his name, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. I forgot his name, but that era, bruh, y'all was watching all that bullshit. Meanwhile, SmackDown was over there dropping heat. Great character work, straight heat, good matches, good everything was good over there, bruh. And y'all was over here just watching the bullshit that Raw was putting out. But hey, I digress. But anyway, so that's just gonna about do it for this one, man. The entire history of SmackDown, most definitely. Damn, he got another banger too. Best faction of each year. Oh my god, bro, this man got too much heat over here, bro. We gotta tap in with Wrestle with Andy, bro. We have to tap in with the brother, man. He got too much heat over here. But anyways, I'll see you on the next one. Till then, deuces.